just a motherfucking intro. I'm just trying to get that money like 1-0-0-0-0-0-0-0-0-0. I'm here with Gino.
Hey, danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player. Feeling like Pac, represent. On my block, try to knock me down, but I come up on top. Yeah, they wanna see me flop. Got a plot, want a lot, I won't stop on my pops. Got so many flows, it's insane. They don't really understand the game. Got a plan and it's plain, I ain't playing. I'm just trying to gain. I wanna get that big bag, need that big Rex. Blow up Tic Tac with a blue cheese at. I don't give a fuck about your feedback. Eat that, get back, sit back, watch me spit that kickback. Got so many flows, yeah, they think that I'm insane. Ghetto kids in a lot of pain, all about the bills, ain't shit changed. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game, I'm a player. If you a hater, I don't hate you. I'm just really happy that I ain't you. I just wanna thank you. You kept me motivated, so now I motivate you. There's a lot of cake, money on my mind like a banker. Coming through with them bangers, ain't no room for mistakes. Lot of stake, hustle till we get a lot of rooms, lot of stakes. Good kid, but I keep it gangsta. All gas, no brakes. Got cash for the case. More cash in the case. More cash in the safe. More cash on the way. Hustling all day. Ay. Danger, coming with them bangers. Tell me where my paper. Still on the same mission, trying to live major. Don't hate me, hate the game. I'm a player.
Danger, coming with them bangers. Where my fucking paper.
Yeah, head up in the clouds, dog, they saying I look stressed. I've been feeling down, pray to God that I'm up next. Remember when she blew me off, that's why I can't text. Now she call me petty, but I swear I can't forget. This ain't a test, now they saying that I ball like Jerry West. Coming back for what is mine, can't take no less. I said go and take a shot, so I need your best. And stop the threats, don't know what is in me. I don't got time, I'm not giving the energy. Too many people around me, I'm finicky. I do not mess with you, dog, you're not kidding me. You don't got way too close. I've been up at the top now, so they all wait for the landslide. I seen too many people that switched up, whose man's high. Through it all, I stay the same, I swear to God, I can't lie. Been down so damn low that I came up for my life. They talk way too much on the internet, it's not real life. I swear my fam waiting, I can't lose, and I'm still right. I swear that I'm working them up till like midnight. It's real life, I got a time and I'm coming to get mine. In time, I cannot lose and I'm coming right inside. I'm in my, yeah.
Up or down, we get paid either way. Long when it bounce, short when it break. Up or down, we get paid either way. Long when it bounce, short when it break. Market go red, that's dinner on place. If you only win one way, you late. Up or down, we get paid either way. Money in the bank when the candles shake. Broke boys pray, we calculate. If you fear both sides, you too late. Price go up, I ride the wave. Price fall fast, I short the gray. They need green just to feel okay. I make money in a hurricane. If you bullish, only you half a trader. Market turn red, you a spectator. I stay paid in every layer. Volatility, my elevator. They panic selling, I'm scaling in. They revenge trade, I'm stacking wins. They chasing candles, I fade the trend. They And cash out calm while they hold the L. You want direction, I want range. You want hope, I want exchange. You want luck, I want edge. That's why my account don't beg. Up or down, we get paid either way. Long when it bounce, short when it break. Market go red, that's dinner on plates. If you only win one way, you late, Up or down, we get paid either way. Money in the bank when the candles shake. Broke boys pray, we calculate. If you fear both sides, you too late, I don't need green candles to eat. If you're scared too short, you're scared to win, Profit don't care about direction. Bulls celebrate, bears pay me. Volatility is my direct deposit. Your hope is my liquidity. I don't predict opposition. Fear is where the entries live. You pray for pumps, I prepare for dumps. I make money in corrections and celebrations. The trend is your religion. The range is my income. If the chart move, I get paid. Up or down, we get paid either way. Long when it bounce, short when it break. Market go red, that's dinner on plates. If you only win one way, you late, Up or down, we get paid either way. Money in the bank when the candles shake. Broke boys pray, we calculate. If you fear both sides, you too late,
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Ayy, on the road, here we go. Yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming, I'm a landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command like. Yeah, you about to see me on demand like. You know on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll. And it's time to run it up, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Hey, on the road, here we go, yeah. At the top of the class on a roll. Hey, and it's time to run it up, you know, yeah. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor. Yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go. On the road, here we go, here we go.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream. And shout out to anybody who watched the market update yesterday. 72K incoming. Here we are tapping into, or now sitting at 73.6, but pushing down into about $72,500, guys. We got Lucy in the studio today, guys. I don't know if you could hear her, but she is losing her mind. All right, Lucy. It's okay. I'm going to scream talk for about probably 2 hours here. You're going to be all right. Eat your treat. Chew your toy. You're going to be good. Lay down. Good girl. She's probably not going to stop, guys. I might have to take a pit stop here to bring her back downstairs. But I'm trying to not isolate her all day. But welcome back, Mafia. Thank you all for... I don't know if you guys can hear her. She's making the craziest noises right now. But welcome back to the Frankie Candles live stream, guys. We talked about the move down to 72K yesterday in the market update, and shortly after, We got the dump to the downside here, so I'm going to talk about the last level that we're touching right now before we tap into the lower major target we looked at yesterday, which sits closer to $72,000 even, down to about $70,000. I'm going to break down all the key levels for you. Lucy throwing me off here, baby. Okay, calm down. You're a good girl. Lay down. But we're going to cover the key levels, guys. Are we going to see the bigger breakdown towards $68,000? I'm going to talk about the key level of resistance above us that we must break above in order to start feeling a little bit more bullish here. Because as you guys know, as we've gotten this move to the downside, we've spotted all the high time frame money flow coming out, making us suspicious of the continuation to lower prices. And here we are, sitting inside the next target. So I'll cover everything with you guys today. We'll talk about the next moves and what I'm expecting overall for the price action. Shout out to Indian Martini. Welcome in. We got Darren Does Things. Jesse. We got Chris in the chat. Said pink shirt, black hat, no pants, dogs out. My apologies. Shout out to Chris. I'm not going to lie, guys. I do got the dogs out right now. I got the dog out here, and I got 2 dogs down here. Just straight out. No socks. Whatever. I'm going commando on my feet. Big deal. But shout out to Chris. Welcome in. We got Zach said, let's go. Close the short at 74K. Open the long from 72.8. Can't thank you enough, Frankie. Shout out to Zach. He is in the premium Discord, crushing the trades. Shout out to Zach. Well, we're glad that you were able to close that short in some profit. Of course, we did take that short in the $82,000 zone. So we'll cover that. I'll give you guys my overall thought process. We got Borpato in the chat. Welcome in. Sailor will file bankruptcy. Insider info. Oh, my God. Shout out to Vision. He's got insider info. Oh, my God. Let's see. We got lackluster bounce on the weekend. Let's go. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that because, of course, we do have some low time frame bullish divergences forming. Could get a little bit of a bounce. I'll talk to you guys about my positions, my trades, and what I'm overall looking for next. And hopefully it could play out as well as the market update did yesterday, guys. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel because, again, if you saw that market update yesterday, this move will be of no surprise to you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into Salute the charts. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so here we are. I will kind of break down how we got to where we are and what we are going to be expecting next here. So obviously, guys, yesterday on the market update, as we were playing around with our major level of support just over the past few weeks here, make sure my audio is good, over the past few weeks, as we've gotten the push to the downside here, we identified that our higher time frame money flow, talked about this yesterday as well, for 5-hour, 6-hour, 8-hour, 10, 12, 16, and even the daily money flow, that's the 2-day, daily money flow starting to leak out here. 16-hour already back in the red. And as we start to hit that, or as we were starting to hit that major resistance target at $82,000, this was the first place where we were open to starting to look for bigger short positions or just kind of expecting some kind of a bigger pullback here because we had that magnetic target up here. All these trades were looked at as scalp shorts until proven otherwise. That wound up being the right decision as we got sucked up towards that magnetic target at $82,000, plain and simple. Push into this target with some bearish divergences on the higher time frames. You can see it in all of its glory. I'll go over this for like 2 seconds. Lower highs on our momentum waves, higher highs on our price action into the key level of resistance, indicating some kind of a pullback. And then on that pullback, guys, we started to see the money flow start to leak out, indicating lower highs and lower lows to come. Lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. And then yesterday on the market update, as we were pushing into this major $74,000 target. This was kind of the big level that we wanted to stay on top of, right? We had the macro value area high, very clean and simple here. This is the main profile I told people to mark off on their chart as we were starting to lose this, right? This is really the area that we do not want to get accepted back into because this could potentially accept us into the larger profile and eventually send us down towards that bigger high time frame target sitting at $68,000. Lose the value area high, the next likely place for price to go is eventually going to be that POC. Obviously not 100% hit rate on those, but a very, very high probability theory, right? These oftentimes do play out. And yesterday, this was obviously a zone of support between about, $76,000 and $74,000. We had the massive anchored VWAP from 66K. If we wanted to hold up this as a higher low and see that big push to the upside, which over the past week or two, we've been talking about how it is starting to look a lot less probable that this is going to hold up as a higher low. And why is that, guys? It's simply because of the money flow. Money flow indicates the overall trend every single time. About 80 to 85% of the time. I would personally say those aren't legit statistics, but if you guys watch the channel, you will know that money flow is going to keep you on the right side of the trades. And as we waited for this major target to get hit, holding the short from $81-ish thousand, this was kind of the first major target, right? This is the level that had to hold up if we were going to put in a higher low and get the bigger move up. And then as we've been looking at that money flow, we start to say, okay, well, hey, now we've finally come down to hit this target. Are we going to see the bigger move up, which obviously is looking less and less likely over the past live streams and market updates? It's like, well, hey, if money flow is coming out, when I want to see a higher low come in for a massive new high to come, targeting 86 to 90K, really what we want to see is the opposite of what we have happening on money flow right here. We have a big green wave leaking into the red, indicating the downtrend continuation. So literally the opposite of what we want to see for the higher low for the big push to the upside. And this is the importance, I was telling the premium Discord earlier today, this is the importance of not having an emotional bias, right? Of course, everybody would love, including me, to put in that higher low and get the massive push into the highs. That would be absolutely beautiful. This would have been a very nice place to put it in. But of course, on that way down, you start to see the money flow fizzling out. That was kind of the term I started to use ever since we saw the 4-hour money flow all the way back here starting to turn red, right? Once that starts coming out, we say, well, hey, this short looks very good to at least get inside our range and move down to the value area low. And then once we start losing this value area low, guys, when we look at the overall macro profile, we are now below our macro value area high. Now, this is going to come into play in a very big way. I'm going to talk about of course, as we push into our key level, the kind of only local level we had underneath us yesterday, we pull up those daily and daily MPOCs. We had this level right here. Mark this off with a blue box because, of course, this is technically support, although do I have hopes that this is going to be a higher low? Well, if you watched the market update yesterday, you'll know exactly why I don't think that. But this is still support, right? We are starting to get a little bit of interaction with this level. And when I pull up our current profile here, technically this is a deviation below the low, typically a place where I am looking for long positions. I'll kind of explain to you guys how I'm positioned right now. But this is typically a place where I like to look for longs at the lows, shorts at the highs, right? Longs at the lows, shorts at the highs, et cetera, et cetera. But in this particular scenario, of course, when you look at this range by itself, it's like, all right, well, we're below the value area. Of course, this could be a place to look for longs. But when you look at the overall kind of macro standpoint here, sure, we can get a bounce here. But do I have high hopes of this getting back into the range, flipping the value area low, coming to the POC, pushing into the value area high, and being a massive move to the upside? Obviously, money flow is not pointing in that direction on the higher time frames. And when we pull up our macro profile, of course, what is the biggest level of resistance on the way up going to be? Well, it's going to be this value area high, right? Because, of course, key support, right? Of course, you can get a little bit of a bounce, but if that money flow is going to be continuing to the downside on the higher time frames, we do have to be careful of lower highs and lower lows. At this point, right, the biggest task you have at hand is to get back above this value area high, sitting at about 76,000, 76.1, right? Once we get above here, it's like, all right, maybe we could get out of this profile, of course. Excuse me. We could still have opportunities. Like once we get up here, we'll look at the money flow. If I had to guess, guys, even if we get out of here, it would kind of change the bearish sentiment a little bit. But of course, there is still major resistance above. There's plenty of room to put in macro lower highs. It's really going to depend on what money flow looks like if we get a bigger move up. But again, we'll cross this bridge when we get there. That's pretty far away at this point. Right now, what I would say is this is the last level of support. Yesterday on the market update, we said, well, hey, if we're going to cover the local levels, of course, deviate below the low. You got the daily and the daily MPOC. Of course, we can get a little bit of a bounce from this level, and when we zoom in a little bit, you actually did get some 1-hour bullish divergences here with the lower lows on our price action, higher lows on our momentum waves, and the one thing about this is if anybody is long from here, I would say you got to be careful, and I'll cover the local levels of resistance as well, but like the macro outlook here, based on what we've been looking at on the higher time frames, right? Like, of course, like even here, right? You could look for the bounce. However, right, long-term money flow is coming out. You're going to expect some kind of a lower high and a lower low to come. Plenty of room to be, plenty of money to be made on this move. If we get a bigger bounce, even if it's going to be a lower high, you could still profit on that move. But overall, I would say you have to be careful because, again, it is a little bit tricky here because we have the overlapping profiles. When I pull both of these volume profiles up, they're kind of like right on top of each other. So, yes, when you look at this alone, it's like, sure, you could view that as a volume profile trade, potentially looking for a high probability fill to the value area high. However, in this particular scenario, we have a gigantic wall in the way of getting us through the rest of this profile, and that is very simply going to be the macro value area high. If we cannot get back above this high, my bearish sentiment remains the same for an overall eventual continuation down to the next key level, right, that we looked at yesterday. I think the thumbnail said 72K incoming, which technically we've already come down and hit 72,455. But really that big zone that I was looking at comes from our previous value area. And kind of the two major profiles that I'm looking at right now is, of course, you have the current profile here, and then you have your lower previous value. Right, lose that anchored VWAP, right? This will be a great place to hold on top for the trend. But once you lose that, right, we already had the bearish back test that we looked at yesterday. Not the best sign. I think it's literally what I said. Bearish back test, not the best sign. But of course, we end up getting the rejection. And as long as we stay underneath that anchored VWAP, which is confluent with the macro value area high, as long as we stay underneath these levels, money flow, in my opinion, could still be pointing towards a bigger move down towards the big magnetic level down here, which is the golden pocket retracement when pulled from $66,000 all the way to the high here at about 83, almost 83K. So this would be a full golden pocket retracement. And of course, we would also be coming down to retest our previous, get this off the chart, right? Coming down to retest that previous value area high. So I would still say, right, this is still kind of a local level of support. Once we lose this zone, guys, the next big level to look at is really sitting, the technical level here is, I would say, about 71.5 down to about $70,600. And even here, right, we're looking through the profiles here, right? You got the big profile, you got the little profile. Of course, we can look for a bounce here, potential scalp long opportunities, because at this point, if we come down here, I will be stopped out in profit on my swing long position from 66K, so I will be open to taking new longs down here. However, the outlook, you have to have a plan for your trade. My plan for that trade is probably not going to be high or low, massive high or high. It's probably still going to be the same thing that I'd be looking at that through the same lens that I'm looking at it here, right? Which is probably going to be lackluster retracement, lower high, lower low, and then we could potentially look for some more bounces here. I will still be viewing that as a lackluster, kind of more of a scalp long or day trade for an eventual lower high and a lower low. Once we lose this value area high around 71K, at that point, the next major target is going to be $68,000, which is, again, covered in the market update yesterday. The same exact point of control that we have on the macro profile, right? Small profile, get below the high. Next place for price to likely go is the POC. Lose the golden pocket. Next place to go is the 786. And then when we look at it through the macro perspective, right, it's just an overall long-term continuation down towards that point of control. This is why really the money flow is kind of what gave us the early signals up here that this would be a bigger pullback. But now that we've lost this level, we've talked about that 74K level. Guys, when we get down to 74K, it's going to be absolute decision time for Bitcoin. We came down there. Wasn't looking good yesterday. We get the bigger breakdown, and now we live below that value area high, which is just in general going to be more bearish because, of course, that volume profile theory could eventually play out, making that POC the longer-term target at $68,000. In the meantime, those two local levels of support are what we're bouncing off right now, and underneath that, you have the $71,000 golden pocket. Again, I explained on the live streams as well why I didn't really like the supports here, right? We had a little bit of a low volume gap down here. From here all the way pretty much down to the next high volume node, which sits right on that golden pocket. So there's not really a lot of good support here, in my opinion. Of course, you have the daily and the daily MPOC, but when we look at it from a volume perspective, high volume node, high volume node. Price does not oftentimes like to stick through these low volume areas. And of course, right, you have a little bit of a spike in volume here at the daily MPOC, but it's not really as interesting to me, right? This is always going to be a more interesting level. It's a higher volume node. You have key levels down there, and you're not inside that low volume gap. So been able to kind of avoid taking a bunch of like scalp longs here, trying to catch the bounce and continuing to get stopped out. Now, I am still technically holding my swing long position from 66K. Once we take out these lows, I will stop myself out in profit on that position. I had profits locked in, still unrealized in profit. So I will stop myself in extra profit there, lock that in, and then I'll just start looking for new long positions once we start getting down towards these levels. If we wind up taking off from here, which again, I would say the lower probability scenario, let's just say if we did end up getting the volume profile to play out. And another thing to mention here, guys, is, we have 1 hour bullish divergences. We've already seen a little bit of a bounce here. I'll cover the lower time frames in a minute, but it's 1 hour bull divs, right? It's not like we have massive 4-hour bullish divergences. It's not like we have massive, 10-hour bullish divergences. We don't really have like a ton of super high time frame confirmation here, which in my opinion would indicate, of course, a little bit of a bounce at support, but not something that I would really anticipate to be a massive, massive move. If it winds up being a massive move, well, great. Kind of be able to hold on be able to hold on to my swing long position by like the skin of my teeth, and then if it plays out, I'll let that hit me by surprise. That is not what I'm expecting. I said yesterday I do eventually expect to get stopped out of my long position, which is no problem, right? Because I've already got the profits locked in, and if I get stopped out, I'll just take that extra unrealized profit that I'm still in. So there you go. That is the overall thought process. Very simply, I know there's a lot of levels here, guys. We looked at this yesterday. Losing that value area high is not a good sign, right? So at this point, the biggest level of resistance, in my opinion, I will cover with you. We do have some confluence here on our value area high, but from a very kind of simple outlook, I'll pull up a daily time frame. As long as you remain inside this profile below 76K, my bias remains bearish, right? Probably going to be a continuation down to the $71,000 zone, and then eventually, longer term, it's probably going to be somewhat noisy in here, but eventually get that move down to 68K. Once something changes, and what would be the thing that I would need to see change for me to kind of look for a different outcome, it would be to get up here, and I'll look at a specific signal that I'm watching. If we can get up here and start flipping that value area high, and the anchored VWAP from 66K, like this is the biggest zone to get above. Call it $76,000. And I'll go a little bit more nitty gritty in there because we do have some other confluences there. But at the end of the day, this was major support, right? Not only was it a volume profile, but just from a structural perspective, this was the big level we wanted to get above in order to see the 82K target hit. Check it off the list, right? Break above there, flip it to support, 82K, boom, perfect. Getting the rejection on the way down. This was a major, major level, and we've now lost it, right? I like to try to at least give you guys some kind of a simple explanation here. It's like when we get to 74K, major level. When we get down there, we'll identify the price action, we'll look at the order flow, we'll look at the money flow, and we got down there yesterday, didn't look good. You see the continuation down, right? This is how we're able to make these calls, pull these targets, and have them hit time and time and time again. So just from a simple perspective here, major support has now flipped to major resistance, which also sits in that same exact area of the value area high in the anchored VWAP, sitting around 75 to 76K. So if you get back up here, this is a very, very important level to flip into support in order to see some kind of a bigger move to the upside, whether it ends up being a lower high or we can break out to higher prices. Again, I'll say this. I know I've repeated it many times. This would be the less probable scenario at this point. And again, it's why we don't have an emotional bias. It's not like, oh, I really want the continuation up. Don't worry, we're going to bounce. Once we see that money flow coming out, you have to be able to flip on a dime, position yourself correctly so if price does dump and your original scenario does not play out, you can not only not get wrecked, but also make a bunch of profit on the way down. The Candle Mafia makes money trading Bitcoin, whether price goes up or down. Up or down. We get paid either way. But anyway, I'm going to jump into chat here real quick. I'll jump into the lower time frames and talk to you guys about kind of what I'm looking at locally here. We do have a potential signal printing here that could indicate a little bit of a bounce. I'll talk about that exact signal. But overall, guys, we got to get back above this zone. I mean, overall, that's what makes me bearish. It's not going to be until we flip this where I'll feel a lot better about getting some kind of a bigger move to the upside. So yeah, again, I said it yesterday or 2 days ago on the live stream. Like, I don't like to say we're going to lower prices. But of course, there's a big benefit to just saying it and not caring, right? Because, of course, you could capitalize on those moves to the downside and make some money. Shout out to Lindo, said, Frankie, I noticed we have a lot of liquidity below us at around $72,000, so might also be a magnet for lower prices. Shout out to Lindo. I will take a look at the liquidation heat map with you. I have it queued up for you. We'll take a look at that as well. That has also been able to help us identify that we would get a bigger draw to the downside. Let's see. Yo, shout out to Dixon. Welcome in, bro. Good to see you. Said, Frankie, my brother, how are you? Still doing these lives? Crypto has had me disappointed overall. Not going to lie, bro, but hope you're doing well. Shout out to Dixon. You're not alone, bro. It's a ghost town. Everybody left. Not everybody. But yeah, I mean, we're here. Whether price goes up or down, baby, we're making money. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well as well. Shout out to Dixon. Can't say his full name there because it's a little bit of a trap. But shout out to Dixon. Good to see you, bro. I hope you're doing well. Shout out to Zach. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate you. He says, Frankie, premium is pure gold. I came in blind, staring at candles like cave paintings. Now I'm learning to read the market's footprints. You are the true crypto goat. Best stuff on the web. Shout out to Zach. I appreciate you so much for saying that, bro. That is the goal of the premium Discord. It is not a signals group, but I am there to teach you my exact systems and how I'm able to call for these moves in the market. And not only that, but make money on top of it. So shout out to Zach making full use of the value there in the premium Discord. Shout out to Zach. Let's see. Felix said, not flipping the value area high anytime soon, maybe after the summer. Yeah, potentially. And I'll take a look at the higher time frames with you guys and talk about kind of what I'll be looking for. I'll cover it very briefly, right? Because my thought process hasn't really changed there. But I'll kind of give you an idea of where I think we are in the cycle and how we could potentially see things play out long term. Yo, shout out to BTC Bill. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Come on. Gifting the 20 Frankie Candles membership. Shout out to BTC Bill. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, man. Not only for showing support to the channel, but giving those memberships to the Candle Mafia. Another $50 super chat, bro. Thank you so much. You do not have to do that. I appreciate you. He says, let's go, Mafia. Come on, BTC Bill. Oh, yeah, Lucy is staring at me like I have 7 heads right now. She's like, what is going on? Why is my dad screaming at his computer? But she did settle down. I don't know if you guys can hear her when she barks. This is a pretty tight microphone, but hopefully you don't hear her too much. I might have to move her if she goes crazy. But shout out to BTC Bill. Thank you so much. If you just got a membership, I don't know, drop B's in the chat for BTC Bill. I don't know if we have a custom emoji that would have. Oh, drop the Bitcoin emoji that you now have access to for BTC Bill. Let's go. The dump looks similar to the one from 74 to 76K the first time Bitcoin reached it, then bounced from 64K. I don't see it going much lower. So yeah, we'll cover it. We'll cover it. We'll take a look at the liquidation heat maps. Can I pay with a card or just crypto? I assume you mean for the premium Discord. Yeah, you could pay with a card for sure. I think it's Stripe. What kind of dog is Lucy? She is 50% Staffy, so she's basically like 50% pit bull, and then she's got another percentage of German Shepherd. She's like a pit bull Shepherd mix. She's trying to kill her stuffed animal right now, but I'll pull her up on stream towards the end here. We'll say hi to her. There's the Bitcoins for BTC Bill. What's the expectation from this downside move? A new low to 59K. You told such things in the past, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so let me just cover this real quick. Right now, I'm going to take it level to level, right? Right now, the biggest levels underneath, like if you're just going to mark off the high time frame levels, the biggest levels to mark off are very simply going to be the 71K zone. Actually, I'll keep this up. $71,000 inside our previous volume profile, right? Golden pocket. See where this anchored VWAP is. You got a little bit of... this anchored VWAP is very likely going to be confluent, or almost is confluent with 72K. So as you know, right, like this was the major 72K target I was talking about. We are starting to get some support on the upper daily here. But at the end of the day, the bigger level down below, in my opinion, is going to be between 72K even all the way down to about 70,500, call it, into the value area high. So that's number one, 72 to 70,500. And then underneath that, very simply, POC of the range, right? $68,000. Those are the two biggest levels underneath us. And then, of course, once we get down there, we can look at our money flow, identify if we're going to get a bigger bounce here. But overall, within this volume profile, last night, I was saying I can't really unsee this profile now. If we do end up getting the acceptance, right, or we are accepted in at this point, right? But if we do get the bounce here, I can't unsee the fact that it is going to be a high probability that we do rotate down to the value area low of the range, which sits at about $65,000 currently on the bigger value area. And once we start interacting with the lower value area, we could stop looking at the bigger value area because we could just look at this one for context, right? The volume profiles give you a beautiful roadmap on where price is going to go next. Once we get down here, sure, we can get bounces, but once we start losing this value area high, next likely place for price to go is going to be the POC at 68K. As long as we remain inside that profile and can't break out of the value area high, eventually that full fill down to the value area low is going to be very high probability. So those are the biggest levels. Can we come down and take out the low? Potentially. Meaning the low at about $60,000. It's in the cards, but we'll deal with. We have a lot of support underneath us, so we'll have to see what the context of the market is once we get down here. But I will say, there is definitely a chance that we can come down and take out the low. We just need more information to kind of make that a confident call, right? Up here, when we're pushing into $82,000, it's very hard for me to say, hey, guys, we're going to go down to 68K. Because at the end of the day, if we came down here and money flow looked good, this would have been a great place to put in a higher low. But once price comes down, we have that new information within this price action. We have new money flow to look at. And at that point, it becomes higher probability that the continuation down is going to happen. It's going to be the same thing down there. So I'll cover that more on the higher time frames. But those are the biggest levels to get on your chart right now. If we continue down 72 to 70,600, below that, once we lose this value area high, 68K. And once we get down there, we can start talking about the value area low at 66K and pretty much the same value areas here, right? Like 66 to 65K. Once we get down here, that's where we'll start talking about, well, hey, are we looking for an overall volume profile rotation, right? Or are we just looking for a loss of this range for a massive dump below 60K. Now, with that being said, before I jump into the local price action here, guys, I'll just cover the higher time frames just because of that question. Shout out to Dave Digital in the chat. Welcome in, brother. But can we break the 60K lows? As you guys know, when we look at this on a high time frame, pull up the Bitstamp chart so we can get a little bit more history. We have massive support underneath us, right? Actually, let me pull back up the Bybit chart so I can pull this up, right? Once we wind up taking out 68K, I think the big question people have is like, are we going to nuke down to $20,000, $30,000? That is still not my base case, right? There's like nothing really about this dump that makes me think that we're going to 30K. However, with this $82,000 major target of resistance being a golden pocket, of course, we could be open-minded to this being a lower high, right? When we're looking for highs, lows, lower lows, typically that golden pocket is where we see those, between the golden pocket and the 786, is where we see the rejections come from. And that's why when we looked at this major zone of resistance, right, technically it's a large zone between $81,000 and $90,000. We separated into two targets because we don't know if we're going to get a rejection, if it's going to happen at the golden pocket or the 786. And here's a insider tip. You don't need to know when you're down at 66K whether rejection is going to happen here or here. You can just wait for price action to get up there, give you the signals that you're going to get the rejection, and then take the short positions, right? You don't have to like plan it here and set a limit order here, because what happens if it looks really good up here and you come to the higher target? Trading is a game of trapping. We had two traps up here. Although this being a large zone, right, if I'm looking for a lower high and lower low, it's going to come in here or here, right? So when we push into the first zone, we look at the price action, see if we can find a trade, which we did. Short position, obviously. And then if you get above it, you don't get the short position, and we push up to the second target, that would just be the second trap that you're going to be looking at. So this is a golden pocket retracement, right? So technically you could entertain this as a lower high before a lower low. If we do take out 60K, we have massive support underneath us. This level remains the same as people who might have taken a break from this kind of garbage price action that we've had for a while. They're tuning in for the first time in a while, right? You're probably familiar with this level. We looked at this forever ago, right? Major support between about $58,000 and $55,000, and this actually technically does extend down quite a bit. Where's my 2021 range? Where's it at? There it is, right? We have the previous value area high of our bull market range from 2021. There's massive support down here. So am I necessarily expecting this to be a lower high for a massive continuation of a super long-term downtrend? Bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom. This is not my base case to get that big move down towards 30K. This is, again, I repeat, as I've said throughout all this price action, this is not my base case. Is there a point where this can become valid? Absolutely. When I see that on the chart, I will call that as the higher probability. It's just too soon to say, right? It's somewhat of a gamble to say, oh, just hold on, wait till 30K to buy, because if we come down here, wind up stabbing out the lows, getting massive confirmation on the higher time frames, massive weekly bullish divergences, well, at that point, 30K remains the lower probability scenario. If we wind up coming down, simple volume profile theories. It's the same theory that we look at within the larger profiles here. It's the same theory that we look at on our 15-minute volume profiles. Once you get accepted underneath this value area high at about 54K, next likely place for price to go is going to be that POC of the range. And then if you can't hold this, that is where I would expect that next massive drop down into the low 30s. But until that happens, this is massive support. Does that make sense? So long term, I've talked about how I personally think that we are a lot further along in this bear market than people realize. I am 2026 bottom watch. Does that mean that we can't put in a new low? No, we totally can put in a new low. But that does not mean, where is my... Let me just hide some of these levels so it's not super confusing. Let's pull up the relevant levels that we're talking about, right? It's not going to be until we get accepted into this profile where I would say, hey, high probability of a move down. Until then, it is going to be massive support. We've seen our major capitulation in the market, very similar to this. And I do think we are more in a situation of some kind of a bottom being built out. This is all being identified or indicated by all of the indicators, the RSI, the market cipher. Everything is in the condition of a bottom being built, not in the condition of a massive, another version of this, right? Whoops. Right, like this is just not what I'm expecting right now. Again, could it happen? Yes, but I need to see the signs on the chart. But for me personally, this is massive support. If we start breaking down here, that's where I start to call for those lower levels. So I would say, like, from a cycle perspective, I don't know how this bottom is going to build out, guys. All the bottoms on Bitcoin have always looked different. 2022 was very, very clean with our weekly bullish divergence. At this point, we had lower targets down here. If you've been part of the CandleMafia for that long, right? We had lower targets between 12, 14K, and then eventually the one everyone was looking at was $8,000. Is it impossible to see $8,000? No. When we put in this weekly bull div, was I in the camp that the bottom was very likely in and we would not see $8,000? Absolutely. So we don't have any massive bullish divergences down here just yet. Now, the kind of caveat here is we don't always see those bullish divergences, and actually I would kind of compare this to 2015, right? In 2015, you actually bottomed out on capitulation. You did not put in any weekly bull div. So you don't need those bullish divergences. And, whether it ends up, let me just drag this over here. Whether this ends up looking something like 2015, where we just end up kind of ranging down here, which would kind of make sense for summer, right? Summer's typically very boring, right? You just kind of range down here. Maybe we hold that value area high, don't take out the low, and we just kind of range around and continue to accumulate. This is kind of one option that we can see. And then the next option, which I honestly prefer, right, because it's just so clean, it's so like easily identifiable, is that you do end up taking out that low and putting in some kind of a weekly bullish divergence, which is essentially what I just drew out for you guys a few minutes ago. So let me just kind of readjust this. Man, the way they adjust this is very not intuitive. So you maybe come down, you stab out the lows, and then you wind up putting in high time frame bullish divergences, maybe on the weekly time frame, and then in my opinion, right, seeing that pop up would be a massive sign that the bottom is in. Either way, I think we are much closer to a situation where we are in like this part of the cycle. This part of the cycle. This part of the cycle. And I've talked about, I think the easiest way to look at this, especially for new people, is to just simply look at the RSI. The numerical targets are not the most important thing, right? Everybody focuses on the price target. Same thing with the top in the bull market, right? The psychological target, right? We have to hit 150K. We have to hit 150K. And me, as a technical analyst, is just like, there's nothing about that number that, like, Bitcoin doesn't know, like, I have to go to 150K, right? What does it care about? It cares about momentum. It cares about money flow. It cares about liquidity. It cares about bearish and bullish technical confirmations, right? It's not just these, like, numerical targets. Anytime anyone has ever, like, died on the hill of calling for a numerical target, it is never the way to go, right? Because if they don't hit the target, then, if they're saying 150K and price goes down from 126 to 90K, they're thinking, we haven't hit 150K, guys. We could still hit it. We could still hit it. My question is, why do you still have to hit it, right? Does the chart say it's going to go back up there? Because if not, you're just calling for that for no reason, which is why I say it's so important to understand how to read the chart so you know when to shift your sentiment, right? I had a target for the top to come in between $120,000 and $137,000. We didn't hit $137,000, but we were still able to identify up here around 110K that 126K was the top. I wasn't just sitting up here, we have to hit 137K, right? Because the charts were not calling for that. We had massive bearish confirmation, money flow coming out, RSI bearish divergence, RSI slammed to the top, right? That is what the price, that's what the market cares about. That's what the chart cares about. That's what the price cares about, not a numerical target, right? So it's hard for me to say, hey, we're going down to 30K, right? Because again, when we look at this, These lines on the chart mark out the oversold RSI, and I've done this many a times, but I think it's the easiest way to kind of repeat it. I have no problem repeating this because I think sometimes people need to hear it over and over and over and over again, especially once you hear it, it plays out, you hear it, it plays out, you hear it, it plays out. It's a little easier to stick to your plan. Oversold RSI. The bottom is in. No big, massive trend to the downside. RSI is oversold. These do not happen a lot, right? It's not like these fake out a million times in between. This has happened once, twice, thrice. This is the fourth time we've seen this happen. And every single time, it has not indicated massive capitulation. Massive capitulation. Never once. And everyone always calls for those lower numerical targets. Right back here it was 8K. And I'm sitting there after seeing the weekly bull div, RSI bull div, oversold weekly. I'm sitting here thinking, well, I don't know why you would call for 8K. It just makes no sense, right, from a technical perspective, right? And here we are once again, and I'll draw this as a box so you can see it. Once you dip into that oversold level, it has never indicated massive capitulation coming. Now, why would I look at that playing out every single time and then say, oh, well, here we are, oversold RSI looking exactly like every other bottom we've seen. I'm going to anticipate that. It's just never something I'm going to look for. Right now, again, is it impossible? Can we see a black swan event? Is there a time where I could call for this? Absolutely. But it's just not on the chart right now. And I'm just here to tell you guys how I come to the conclusions that I come to. Right. And there it is, right? There's just no reason for me to be looking for that when the RSI is very clearly calling for it. Like, it doesn't matter that 8K is down here. The indicators, the momentum is showing that we are forming a bottom here. So hopefully that's good news to most people. I feel like a lot of people don't want to hear that, but which is very strange. But that is still my sentiment. It's been my sentiment for a very long time. We've retested the previous all-time high. Once we go down to 30K, I mean, you've lost the previous all-time high by 50%, which we've almost never done. Not almost. We've just never done that, which would just be a little bit weird, right? I would say if you're going to go down to 30K, there would need to be some kind of crazy black swan event to happen. So again, I can never say it's impossible, but this is how I come to the conclusions that I come to, right? And I talk to you guys about the decisions I'm making. Never financial advice. You should never just copy trade somebody on YouTube. But if we get back down here, I will continue to dollar cost average into the market, right? Weighted dollar cost averaging. If we keep leaking down, I will keep buying. In my opinion, Bitcoin is going up and to the right long term. So I have a long-term outlook on my spot bags. So that's what I'm looking at here on the higher time frames. So, you know, this RSI has plenty of room to come down. Does that mean you can stab out the low? Yes. Does it mean that you're about to stab out the low and start a massive trend to the downside? Also no, right? Maybe it's more something like this where you take out the low. Everything is just like peak fear. Bitcoin's dead. That's typically where the bottoms come in. So if I had to take my best guess here, if we take out the lows, 47K is kind of the lowest I would like to go. And then eventually, you know, let's just say we go into another bull market. We'll be looking back at this past bear market and being like, well, hey, you know, once we go through another bull market and we go back down into another bear market, we'll be looking for the low and we'll be comparing it to this saying, hey, look at the oversold RSI. That didn't indicate that we were going down for a massive capitulation, just like here, just like here. I'm going to be looking for a low. People will probably be calling for 40K, and, you know, the cycle will just repeat. Right? And I mean like the psychological cycle of financial markets. So that's my overall thought process. So the question is, you know, can we still go below 40K? Yes. I can't say it's guaranteed because we see these bottoms form very differently in every single cycle. One thing I can say is, to me, based off the information that I look at and my experience being through multiple Bitcoin cycles and spending almost a decade staring at charts and doing technical analysis, we are much closer to somewhere like maybe in here. Do you still go down? Yes. Is it a massive trend? No. So I'll leave that there. Hopefully that kind of gives some people peace of mind, or at least peace of mind to know what I'm expecting. So there you go. Not financial advice. Shout out to James. Never financial advice. Copy trade Frankie Candles, not someone on YouTube. Shout out to Lindo. I never, you know, again, you can't just copy trade somebody. You got to make your own finance. I mean, if you want to copy trade someone, you know, we all have free will, but I would never, ever, ever, ever tell somebody to copy trade. There's so much more to trading and so many more things you need to understand than just hearing someone bought. You know, like, for example, right, I'm already partially exposed to the market. If we come back down here and I turn my DCAs back on, right, weighted dollar cost average, I have a plan for if we go lower, right? If somebody's just waiting for me to say I'm dollar cost averaging in again and they just put their whole bag here and we do continue lower, I have a plan for that. If they don't have a plan for that, they're going to get completely wrecked. So there's a lot of stuff you need to understand. But I think most people understand that. I hope. Yeah, we could always reassess when we get back down into the 40s. Yeah, if we go down there, again, trading is a game of trapping. You have your key levels, right? Sometimes I'll have a major key level waiting for price to come in, and at the time I'm like, hey guys, I'm very interested in longs at this level. Once we get down there, I might not be interested anymore. The price, I don't know, while you're chopping around up here, I don't know what price is going to look like when we get to that level, right? Once we get down there, if it looks good, I'll be like, hey, this is the key level I was looking for. I saw the exact confirmations I wanted to see. The chart looks good. I'm taking a long. But if I get down there and the chart looks like trash, right, well, that completely changes my plan down here, right? So maybe I sit out of the trade, or maybe I just take it and get stopped out, right? But you have to assess the market, right? Like it could look bullish or bearish at that level. That's why I like to call these areas of interest. When I say I'm interested in a long, it's just an area that I'm interested in. Meaning when we get down to that level, sit down at the chart, load up the cockpit, and dig into the price action and say, okay, I'm at my key level. Am I seeing the confirmations I want to see for a big move up? And for example, on the current price action, here is a big level that I was interested in. We come down to that level in the market update yesterday, or I mean, we had been at that level for a few days, but we come down to that level, and even before we got down to that level, we start saying, hey, money flow's starting to fizzle out. This level may not be able to hold up, right? It's starting to look like the lower probability scenario is this, and the higher probability scenario is the continuation of the downtrend. Very simply identified on your money flow. A very, very simple indicator telling us that when we have money flow coming out, I am not looking for higher lows and higher highs anymore. I'm going to be looking for lower highs and lower lows, lower highs and lower lows. You can do this too. I teach you how to do it every single day here on the Frank Candles YouTube channel. Copy the lessons from Frankie, not the trades. That's a good way to put it, bro. Since this is my first full cycle, when you were talking about bear divs on the weekly at the end of the bull market, I really doubted you, but turned out true. Shout out to Felix. This is just like clockwork. And honestly, Felix, like the fact that you can identify that and say that out loud, like you're ahead of 90% of people, right? I'll never forget back in 2021 when we were coming back up. I did not have my channel up here, although I did obviously see this stuff happening. Same thing, weekly bearish divergences. But I had my channel, I started making videos like down here. But once we got this retracement to the upside, this is where I came up and said, hey guys, because a lot of people were saying high or low, 100K incoming. I said, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is looking like a lower high for a big capitulation into the bear market for many different reasons, right? The same things that we looked to identify it up here. And I had a few people reach out to me in Discord and message me and say, when you were talking about this, I doubted you and I thought you were crazy because everyone else was calling for 100K. I was just listening to what I wanted to hear, and you turned out being correct. I hated you for it, but I actually took your advice. Not that it's financial advice, but he goes, I took your TA and I listened to it, and you saved me a bunch of money. I just want to apologize. And I was like, I didn't even know you hated me, but hey, I appreciate it. So, you know, again, there's no ego, there's no nothing, right? When I see the chart pushing up with these bearish divergences, right, this is always going to be a worrisome sign. I don't care if it's at 126K, my eventual target of 137K, 150K. It does not matter. The price targets are much less important to me than the bearish confirmations, right? If we had put in the, oh my God, my camera froze. There we go. If we had put in those bearish divergences at 150K, well, beautiful. 137K, beautiful. We hit the target. We got the bear divs. But once I start seeing this, these targets become a lot less important, and the price action becomes much more important. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here, guys, don't worry, 150K, 150K, 150K. No, instead, we point out the weakness. We get the retracement. We talk about 126K likely being the top, and here we are with the massive capitulation. So, yeah, shout out to, I think it was Felix said that. Bottom in October, we've talked about that. I think a lot of things that, I think one thing that people are looking for is the bottom in October. Do I think you're crazy for looking for that? No. You know, it has been, from a timing perspective, it would make a ton of sense. Go ahead and pull it up over here. Where's my cycle chart, actually? There we go. From a timing perspective, right, from the top to the bottom, it would make sense to, you know, find a bottom in October. You know, could that make sense? Yes. And to be honest, whether we do like a 2015 style accumulation or we do a 2022 style of accumulation where we get another dip, that could also bring us, you know, very probabilistically, could bring us into that like October zone. Am I waiting for October to buy? Obviously not, right? I've already started to expose myself down here. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's plausible. It's not something I would ever wait on, right? I would never just wait for I'm not buying until October, right? Because if I start seeing bullish confirmations before October, I have to act on those, again, for the reasons I just explained, right? Price action and technical confirmations over just some magic date or magic number. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, and again, why do I say you're not crazy for looking for that? I mean, if you just compare these two cycles from top to top, 1,427 days, 1,429 days, I mean, they are just so close to each other. So this is something I think about. I just don't make decisions off of it. I just kind of use it as a confluence. Frankie, are you ready for summer sideways? I hope not, man. I hope not. As you guys know, I've been putting a little bit, some days like yesterday, I put a market update out. I didn't go live. The reason for that is like to sit up here and go live every day and cover the exact same price action is super repetitive for the community. And it's also like super draining for me. It's much easier for me to just jump up there, always keeping you guys updated with new content. But just like, hey guys, here's a quick market update. We're losing here. I'm looking here. Like yesterday, it played out. More often than not, it does. But it is, this is, if we go into a summer lull like we typically see, like any summer months, compared to this, you're just essentially, you get some volatility, but you're just essentially in a range. This typically does happen during the summer months. It would make sense if we are going to build out a bottom that summer range could be pretty boring. Not that I'll ever stop, streaming during that time, but, I am trying to kind of, I also have a lot of things changing behind the scenes that I don't really talk about very often, that I'm trying to rework some systems on how we do things here. So yeah, I mean, that would just be super boring for me from like a content creator perspective, guys. It gets super difficult to come up here and cover the same boring price action, the same key levels. If something dramatic doesn't happen or sentiment doesn't change or a key level isn't broken, it's very hard to come up here and just talk about the same stuff. I don't think it's helpful. Maybe it's helpful for new people that pop in, but during a bear market, there's not many new people. So just trying to balance that. And yeah, I think, summers are sometimes the best time to go enjoy your life, go touch some grass. You can always keep an eye on the charts, but, it is difficult, right? It's like you just run out of things to say, and I hate coming up here and just repeating the exact same thing. And then eventually we will get into a situation, right? Everybody thinks Bitcoin will never do anything ever again, right? So just so typical down here. Bitcoin's dead. It's never going to do anything again. Nobody cared down here. All of a sudden, you're working overtime. You're doing a market update and a live stream in the same day, right? There's tons of stuff to cover. Down here, it's just bleh. It's kind of gross. Let's see. Looking for the mythical DeFi summer. Shout out to Loki. Any chance of going to 70,500 from here instead of 76 first? It is unable to close above the 73.6 level. So let me jump into the local analysis here. So, of course, as I covered, let me just pull up. And when we look at the local, pull up the Bybit chart here. When we pull up this local TA, let me pull up like a 4-hour time frame. And let me actually just look at this from a high time frame context, right? Just looking at weekly MPOCs, monthly MPOCs, and then monthly and weekly horizontals. Yeah, I mean, from a high time frame perspective, I mean, where's your next high time frame MPOCs and horizontal levels? They're down there around that 68K zone. Where's your next big weekly MPOC? It's in that $76,000 zone. So biggest levels of resistance, biggest levels of support from a high time frame perspective. Everything inside there can just be a little bit of chop, a little bit of noise. But when we dig into the lower time frames here, I'm going to look at it from a lower time frame perspective. I think we all know the macro profile is here. This is what makes me feel very suspicious of if we can't get out of here, we are probably going to head lower to 70,568K. But when we look at the local levels, I'm just going to pull up this context because it helps us understand the price action a bit better. We have deviated below the value area, as I talked about yesterday. Yes, this is a place where typically I'm looking for longs. However, with the longer time frame or higher time frame context, it is very dangerous in my opinion because, not only are we deviating out of this, which could call for rotation back in, flip the value area low, POC, flip the POC, go to the high, you have this thing stepping on you right here at 76K, right? Higher, and especially because money flow is pointing in the direction of the higher time frame profile, which would be lower highs, lower lows. So I don't trust, right? There are going to be times where certain setups are better than others. I don't love this volume profile setup, right? We haven't had, you get a full rotation to the low. We have we have 1 hour bull divs. We don't have any 4 or 5 hour bull divs, daily bull divs, anything like that. So yes, you could see a little bit of a bounce, but I don't know. I am suspicious of this feeling that this is probably not going to fill in full because of the higher time frame context. However, as we looked at yesterday, you are pushing into a little bit of support here. In my opinion, from a low time frame perspective, you got to get above this daily horizontal at 73.7, right? Once you get above there, right, you're just still going to run into another level of resistance, which is your value area low at 74.200. Once you get above there, technically, that would oftentimes open the door to the POC. However, this POC is going to be major resistance, right? Because not only is it the, let me pull up those weekly levels again, weekly MPOC, and of course, when we pull up that upper profile, or larger profile, you have that 76, so call the biggest level of resistance about 76 to 76.7. Once you get above this POC, well, hey, that starts to look a little bit better. Why? Because you're above your value area high at this point. You're no longer within your bearish profile. And an easy way to remember this is as long as you remain inside this profile, I have a bearish outlook, right? It's not going to be until we get above these levels and flip them into support that I'd feel bullish, right? So number one, you want to get above the $76,000 value area high, which is also confluent with your anchored VWAP from $66,000. Big level to flip. After that, you want to get above this weekly POC, or weekly naked point of control, which is confluent with the POC of your range. Once we start flipping that, we could take the macro profile off the chart and say, hey, if we stay above here, we can then look for a bigger continuation up into fill the volume profile in full. Until we get above here, I am going to be very suspicious of lower highs and lower lows. And if I was to mark this off as a big zone, I would say, again, this is still kind of higher time frame. POC to the value area high. This comes in between 76,000 and 76,740. That's the big zone to get back above. Plain and simple. If you can't get above that, there's no reason for me personally to look for a continuation up. Mark this off on your chart. Biggest level to get above. Now, again, to cover like more of the, scalp kind of local levels, let me pull our fib here. Pull it from the high. Yeah, this is also your golden pocket retracement, or golden pocket 786. So biggest level of resistance is going to be right here. So if you're looking at it locally, if you do happen to be holding along from down here, again, I'm not holding a new trade from down here. Get back inside here. This is your biggest area of resistance. Like, if you get up here, this is always going to be the TP1 for a volume profile trade. I would just put extra emphasis on that, right? Definitely would be locking in profits here, because my overall thought process is if you don't get above that POC, you're probably going to continue down for the overall trend to the downside. Why? Look at your money flow coming out. Capiche? So this is the context that I would look at. If you can get it back inside the volume profile, this is your biggest level of resistance. Plain and simple. Again, I'm not holding the trade from here. I don't think this is the biggest level of support. I think the magnetic level into the $70,500 zone is much bigger. And again, macro profile is not looking good there either. So golden pocket 786, POC of the range, and the value area high. Confluence. Let me see something here. Can we get more confluence? Not quite. Depends. If we move up and this anchored VWAP moves down, you'll have another area of confluence. Well, there you go. Pulled from the lower high. Yeah. I mean, this is the big level. Right here. 76 to technically 75,868 up to about 76,8. This, if we get a big bounce from the level we're at right now, which I would say is a probability, that's the big level. I'd be interested in potentially adding to my short up here, to be quite honest. As long as the money flow is continuing out on the higher time frames, this would be a place where I'd be interested in looking. So if we get the bounce first, this is the biggest level to look at. If we get the drop first, this is the biggest level to look at. Below 71.5 to 70,650. And I think the question was, is there a possibility that we can come down here before going up there? Sure. I mean, you definitely could. We have the 1 hour bull div. Again, not the strongest signal. When we look at something like the 4 hour, money flow kind of flat here. Take a look at the 8 hour. You got a green dot. I mean, all of this money flow is screaming to me, lackluster retracements, lower highs and lower lows. That's my basic thought. If you just want to draw lines on a chart, this is my overall thought process. I don't expect it to follow this perfectly. Although, shout out to the premium Discord. We did look at this. This was my overall thought process as we started playing around with the value area high, was to get a drop, bearish retest, and then push into the zone that we're in right now. And if you look at the current price action, we get the drop, the bearish retest, and the push into the zone. Again, I don't ever expect these to 100%, get a, perfect follow of the magical line, but it does more often than not end up playing out. But just generally, that is what I would expect. If you're not going to make it all the way back up to 76K, the only thing I would look at is like your local Fibonacci retracements, which are, to be honest, kind of hard to pull here, just because you have like these little and actually, let me actually grab these, drag them into resistance. Yeah, I mean, like hyper locally. See where this pulls up. Yeah, 74.6. I mean, this would probably be the next like local fib to look at. Again, super low time frame there. Probably be more inclined to look at this confluence, to be honest. So, of course, below the value area low is going to be resistance until proven otherwise. So yeah, I don't even know, I'll let you guys pull those to your heart's desire. You could pull it from this high, or you could pull it from this high. I like this one because it's confluent with the value area low. So it's like if I were to pick where I would look for the lower highs, could happen here for an aggressive without going up to 76K. Once we get above there, I'd probably just be waiting for that $76,000-ish zone to get hit. So those would be the local levels I'd look at. And, yeah, I mean, if we had massive 4-hour bull divs down here, if we were doing something like this on the 4-hour or the 5-hour, I'll just stay on the 5-hour here, with money flow starting to come off, it would look a lot better for a bigger continuation up. But right now, like, the only confirmations we have is the 1-hour bull div. So there you go. I'm going to come back into chat here real quick. Let's see. Shout out to John Vucci. Says, I have a range high at 71,481, and that lines up with the golden pocket. Yeah, that does line up with the golden pocket. You're probably looking at this value area high. 71,000. You might have it pulled slightly differently. Might have changed the level a little bit, but yeah, that's right in that zone. 71,005. Shout out to Zine says, love your content, Frankie, but try not to move the mouse too fast. It's hard to keep up, brother. I appreciate you. Sorry, brother. Sorry. I'll try to slow it down. That's like the downfall of me, is that I just move at a very, very fast pace. Oh, my God. Guys, this dog right now. This dog, she's just on her back with her feet in the air, looking at me like, Dad, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you being so weird? Why are you screaming? Why are you saying bing bong? What the heck does bing bong mean? Does that mean I get a treat? So there we go. Frankie, do you see the stock market? Yes. So let's take a look at the SPY here real quick. Cooking. Absolutely cooking to the upside. We've covered this throughout this price action. Really, I'll be honest, guys. It's like I could pull up like hyper local targets, but this was the last major Fibonacci extension target at about 740. The next major extension target for me sits up at 785. I'm not saying you have to go up there. It is a very big move. But I can't look left, right? So it's very hard for me to find key levels here. The only thing I can do is pull like local extension levels, right? So let me go ahead and see if we can get anything on here real quick. Yeah, I mean, we're pushing into a zone here between 753 up to about 760. Get above that, right? The next level would be 7. 772 to 778. But yeah, obviously the stock market absolutely cooking. Bitcoin just kind of struggling. Struggle city. Shout out to Indian Martini, says, new series, Frankie's summer road trip, trading on the road while visiting national parks with Lucy. Don't tempt me with a good time. We'll get like an RV, and we'll just be me, Mrs. Candles, and Lucy. God, she's just like completely upside down. I can't with this dog. She's too cute. But again, overall, guys, I know like the local price action, we can look for these moves, but I would say just overall, long term, if you're checking back in on Bitcoin for the first time in a couple months because there's some kind of move, I do just think we're trying to work something out here. And we'll see, right? Once we start losing the 47K PLC, then we can start talking about, something completely different happening than what we've seen marked off on the indicators every single other time. Until then, my overall thought process remains exactly the same. Come on down to the lower time frames here real quick. Take a sip of the Aztecian and Cactus Black coffee here. Let's look at funny videos if you have some time left. Shout out to Felix. What kind of funny videos do we want to look at? Do we want to look at funny videos of Lucy dancing? Shout out to the market update. Oh, my God. She was just screaming the whole time. And I told her to be quiet. And she's just like, screw you. She's just dancing. Shout out to Nick. Said, when was the last time you gave away a hat? I sure could use one. Shout out to Nick Dunn. I think we are due for a hat giveaway. We haven't hit a like goal. Bear markets are brutal here, guys. We haven't hit a like goal in quite some time. But the next time we hit 550 likes, I'll give away 3 Frankie Candles hats. But before I confirm that, we do, like I said, we are changing a bunch of stuff we're doing behind the scenes. I have to confirm that we can logistically get that going because I have a lot changing. I don't know. We'll talk about it one day. But yeah. Drink water, Frankie. Shout out to Perry. Say less, Perry. Say less. All right, let's see. Shout out to Al Jr. Says, passing by to sell the Mafia that this dude is the GOAT. Listen, but practice. His channel is money itself. Bing bong. Shout out to Al Jr. Thank you for stopping by for the kind words. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this local price action. I'll try to take a look at some altcoins here, guys. Again, I'm not really super focused on the alts. We'll take a look at like hype. We'll take a look at some of the top movers. But yeah, let me just pull up some local context here. Let's pull a profile. Attempting to break out of this local profile. Pull up the current. Yeah, really, to get some kind of significant move, we're going to have to get like, if we wind up snapping above this daily, sitting at 73, I'll put an alert on this. If we wind up snapping above that daily at 73,751, I would say the next target will be 74,176, and then that will be the value area low battle. I don't know if we're going to see that happen during the live stream, and then I'll also put an alert right here on our value area high in case we start getting a little bit more of a breakdown. Just take a look at market cipher B on the lower time frames. No bear div there on the 3-minute. No bear div on the 5-minute. Yeah, just kind of chopping around there. Let's take a look at the 15. 15-minute money flow crossing into the green. 4-hour green dot's already confirmed. Nothing really to write home about there. So we'll see. We'll see if we lose that value area high or can break above the daily. This would be the doorway into the value area low, and then this would be very likely the doorway down to the POC. So we'll see what happens here. If I had to guess, while we're live, it'll probably just do something like this. So we'll see. But let's go ahead and take a look. I'll take a quick look. We'll just check in here. We haven't checked in on the altcoins in a little while. Let's check out Ethereum. Of course, very similar structurally to Bitcoin. This golden pocket, 2 major zones here. Golden pocket, 786 POC. If you're going to hold up on top of this profile, that's the level to do it from. Lose the golden pocket. Whoops. Once you get accepted into the value area high and you lose the golden pocket, next likely place for price to go is the 786 and the POC. We got a little bounce. Could not get out of the value area high, right? So acceptance. Next major target on Ethereum to the downside will be about 1915, which was coincidentally the year that I was born. So different times nowadays. But yeah, that'll be the next major target to the downside for Ethereum, right? So if Bitcoin continues to dump, Ethereum follows, gets stuck under the 786 POC, could see the continuation down to that value area low. And you can just see the power of the volume profiles here, guys. That's support, right? Obviously, you have money flow coming out. Again, we haven't looked at this in a while, but these are the two major key levels of support. Opportunity to hold on top of the value area high, but when you look at the price action, money flows in the red. Are you anticipating a massive bounce? Probably not, right? You're going to be anticipating lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. Money flow indicates the overall trend so simply, right? So this is kind of what I use this as a kind of like a thermometer, right? It's like, all right, if I'm looking for trades here, let's just say I'm looking at the 10-hour time frame, so bigger trades, right? Higher time frame moves. Am I going to be better off longing this in anticipation of a massive move up, or am I going to be better off either sitting out and waiting for a push to fade the highs, right? Or maybe if I wanted to take a scalp in anticipation of the retracement. But am I going to be better off giga-longing this for a massive move up, or am I going to be better off waiting for this to come up for a lackluster retracement and then short it to get on the right side of the money flow? Money flow indicates the trend. Green and red dots indicate the ebbs, the flows, the ebbs, the flows, the ebbs, the flows. Money flow indicates that. So pretty much what I do there is money flow comes into the red. I wait for a green dot for an ebb to the upside. Money flow's coming out. I'm saying, hey, I'm better off fading that to continue to get on the right side of the trend. Very simple, right? It's red or green. And not only that, it's directional, right? So you kind of front run it a little bit. Shout out to Laurent, says 1915, bro's 111 years old. That's right. I look pretty good for my age, right? Hey. 4 hour 15 market 4 hour 15 minute market cipher B1/16. Yeah, I mean, technically you got the 15-minute money flow coming up. 4 hour green dot. Let's see. Was this printing? Yeah, it happened after we printed the green dot. I mean, technically it's there. I prefer to see that 15-minute money flow crossover at the same time as the 4 hour green dot printing. 4 hour green dot confirmed, then we got the crossover. So it's just not as powerful in my opinion. But you're not seeing that wrong. I mean, the two things are happening. Like button smash. Shout out to Theo Rodriguez. Thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate you. ETH is junk and needs to go away. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's take a quick look at Solana. Let me just clean this profile, or not clean it up, but let me just make this a little bit more visible for you guys. So, very simple. Value area low, POC, stay inside the range, value area high. Reject the value area high, back to the POC, back to the low. From the low to the POC, flip the POC the high. Deviation, back in, bearish retest. Again, like this is, it's like a cheat code. Break down below the high, bearish retest. Money flow coming out. The highest probability scenario there, not just based off the volume profile, which you could use alone, but when you pair it with money flow, it is overpowered. Can't get above the high. Next likely place for price to go is the POC. Money flow still in the red. What do you anticipate here? Lower highs, lower lows, right into the value area low. And here, you got to push into the POC. Didn't get the full fill, but of course, the rotation of the POC is always very high probability. If not, you have the high probability full fill. But, you know, even if, you know, this is why I love the volume profiles, because if let's just say I didn't take this trade, but let's just say I took the trade down here in anticipation of the full fill, the volume profile, which, by the way, I would not anticipate because of money flow. I would be more inclined to look for a lackluster retracement for a lower high and a lower low. But let's just say you wanted to long this, expecting the value area high to get fulfilled to the value area high. Take profit 1, take profit 2. In this case, you could take profit, move your stop loss to break even. If price continues to the high, you continue to make money. If you get stopped out, you can get stopped out in profit. Maybe you wouldn't even be stopped out. Oh, if you were at break even, you'd be stopped out. But, of course, when you understand the context of the market and how money flow works, you would see this as an ebb or flow to the upside for a lower high and a lower low. Well, how do you know where to short? Where are lower highs likely to come in at? Free sauce. Golden Pocket 786. I didn't know this was going to pop up here, but I can just kind of tell. There's your Golden Pocket 786, which was also confluent with the POC. Right? So if I were to look for a lackluster bounce for a lower high and a lower low, where would I look for the short? I would look for it right in here. Where to come in? Right in here. Right? So yeah, at this point on Solana, same thing as Bitcoin for the most part, as far as money flow. Money flow on the higher time frames, mostly pointing to the downside. Not in the red just yet here on the 12-hour. 10 hours in the red, 12-hour, generally trending out. If you have trouble understanding if money flow is trending out, just pull it from the highs. This is obviously coming out. So, unless this comes up in a huge way, I would be very cautious of this just kind of eventually fizzling into the red. So, essentially the same thing as Bitcoin. 16-hour money flow also trending out. Daily money flow in the red. 2-day money flow still in the red. So, you're at support. So, not super shocking to see a bounce here. But at this point, with the way money flow looks, I would still be looking for lackluster retracements, lower highs and lower lows. Where would I look? Kind of similar to the last place, which would be your next major level of resistance on Solana would be sitting right here. Golden Pocket, 786, point of control. Of course, you can reject earlier. Maybe you reject off this local fib. Of course, I'm not going to mark off every single level. Currently testing this Golden Pocket. So, of course, the rejection can happen here. But I would say this is a bigger level. So these would be like the two major levels of resistance. Of course, I'm always going to favor the bigger level, but there's no guarantee you have to get up there. So if we don't reject here, this will be the next place to look. And then this could be a lower high for another lower low based on your money flow, right? Green dot printing, lackluster retracement for lower highs and lower lows. Give you the numerical values there. Local Golden Pocket, 786, sits between 82.95 and 83.84. And then the bigger one in confluence with the POC sits at 84.54 to 85.89. And then if we end up taking out the lows here, I'll give you a target to the downside. This is absolutely key, right? Once we end up losing this value area low, it's also the 786 of the entire move up here. Once you lose this, I'm looking to take out this low here, which sits at 76.74. Lose this, crack that low is what I would look for. So there you go. There is Solana. Let's see. Let's take a look at hype real quick. I think I have hype on here somewhere. Let me pull up the alt chart. It's the Bybit chart. Okay, so let's take a look here. I won't go through the whole rigmarole here talking about this move to the upside. Shout out to anybody on this live stream back here. Perfect Golden Pocket retracement for the bigger rotation through the profile, but we'll take that off the chart at this point because that's old news. I would say right now, your biggest levels of support remain the same as what we looked at last time, right? So obviously, we knew once we got above this 786, this is that last level. This is a resistance level pulled from the high to the low. Once you break above here, the next place to look is all-time highs. Get above here, looking for all-time highs. Well, there we go. At this point, I would still, mark off these key levels. Biggest level of support, in my opinion, would be the value area high Golden Pocket 786, sitting between 47,713 and 43,307. And then, locally, we could pull up check a 4-hour here. Well, let me pull up the liquidation heat map real quick. let me pull up a new heat map because I'm going to come and talk. This is obviously the Bitcoin chart. I want to talk about this liquidity on Bitcoin with you guys in a second. But let me go ahead and pull up a new liquidation heat map. I'll take a look at it on Hype. My thought process here is if you have liquidity below this low, could be an interesting place to look. Let's see here. I guess we'll take a look at Bybit. Bear with me here. Pull up the 1 week. All right, so just see the low that I have here, 54.05. All right, so you do have liquidity there. You also have liquidity right above this high. So really the way I would look at this, personally, oh, what do we get here? Back to Bitcoin. We're on the move. All right. So did not crack the daily, back below the value area high. So we'll see. Let me hide this real quick. Actually, you know what I'll do here? Let me pull up the daily MPOC. Let me just hide this box. All right, so yeah, we'll see here. Back testing the value area high. Money flow in the green technically, but if you can't get back out of here, once you lose that daily MPOC, I would still say POC is the next target. Same line I had drawn here. Not that I'm trying to see it play out perfectly, but we'll see. All right, once you get under that value area high, it opens the door to the POC. But the reason I'm talking about this daily naked point of control is because we lost it. If we can reclaim it, you may be able to still sneak out of here. So once you lose, that's really the last level to really send very light. Once you lose this, it's POC is the only level I'd look at. So we'll see here. Let me put a alert here on the daily naked point of control. Yeah, we'll see. Once we crack there, see if we can get a move down to that point of control. Let's go back to Hype. All right, so the way I would view this, obviously, we have liquidity sitting above these highs, shown on the heat map. Between 65.40 and 66.47. Yeah, so you got the liquidity sitting right up there. Let me just mark this out as licks. Whoops. And then we also have a liquidity below here. Let's just mark up this chart locally for you guys. And we can also pull this profile. So here's your local range. Deviate above the high, get back into the range, can't get out, back to the low, getting the bounce from the low, get above the POC. Technically, the next target here within the profile would be the value area high at 62.52. Money flow coming out on the 4 hour, though. So this is your key resistance. Already tapped into that golden pocket. So, of course, if you are able to get above this value area high, break this 786, I would look for a sweep of the liquidity above the current high, right, giving you a new all-time high. The next biggest level of resistance here on the chart from a high time frame would be about 68.60 all the way up to 75.60. I'll cover that on a higher time frame. But potential opportunities, if you get up here. Now, of course, when you are pushing into new all-time highs, you want to be careful fading the highs. But if I were to get some kind of an SFP up here, could give you a nice little correction down, get back into your profile, look to go to the value area low. So value area high sitting at about 62.48, POC sitting at about 57.88, value area low sitting at 56.66. Now, I would probably personally, in this kind of scenario, prefer the liquidity to get grabbed here. So these would be your two major resistance levels. Could have a simple lower high for a lower low, and then this would be interesting to me for potential bounces if you can get that liquidity sweep down below. So would I look to long hype right now? No, right? The only thing I can look for here are short positions. You've technically already tapped into the golden pocket, so maybe you start the pullback. But if you continue to play around up in here, yeah, look at that, man. Key levels. But if you do end up continuing up, this is your key resistance. Could be an opportunity to look for a rejection back to the POC, back to the low. Daily MPOC tapped on Bitcoin. It doesn't bring me to the right template. All right, so we'll see if we lose this. Head back down to the POC, potentially. This is the last level. Because with money flow coming up, if you could flip that to support, like I said, you could potentially be able to sneak back up. But we'll see if we can get stuck underneath this value area high. Once you lose the daily MPOC, look for that point of control sitting at 72,864. But yeah, you're pretty much in a ranging structure here. So there's your key resistance. Once you come back down, I would treat this as a volume profile. The only thing I would say is, I mean, technically, let's check the daily real quick. Daily money flow in the green, 2-day money flow in the green, 3-day money flow in the green. Yeah, I would say overall, like we looked at last time, right? Like this overall looks pretty good for a bigger continuation to the upside. So these are local levels I would look at. Again, gave the volume profile levels, got confluence on the golden pocket. Once you get back down to the low, right, this will be a place to potentially look for longs. I would just be careful down here because I would prefer if you came down here to sweep out the liquidity. That could be a nice thing. Sweep out that liquidity. All right, everybody's thinking, oh, my God, long this sucker at the top, long this sucker at the top, stop loss below the low. Come down, sweep out all those longs, then send it back up. But I would say overall, this looks good for a bigger continuation to the upside. Biggest level of support, if you see some kind of massive correction here, your biggest level to hold on top of, in my opinion, is going to be this value area high. But, of course, that would be, you'll see if you get the SFP here. If you don't get the SFP there, I would look for the overall continuation down, and this would be the big level to hold. This sits between about 47.50 and 43.91. I prefer the golden pocket because, of course, once you bounce here, you got to fight that value area high. I would much rather bounce from there. But yeah, locally, I'm going to set an alert here. Maybe I'll take a little alt long here if I can get a setup. So we'll see. We'll check back in on this tomorrow. But yeah, I would say overall, like looking at the higher time frames, this looks good. Money flow crossing it. I mean, you have the red dot on the 3-day. I mean, could give you continuation down. 4-hour money flow coming into the red. So, again, would I be looking to long this up here? Absolutely not. I would need at least some kind of dump before looking for a long. But if you get a bigger pullback, right, like this would be super nice. 4-hour money flow. Crosses red. Continue the overall downtrend. Maybe you get the SFP. If not, money flow continues into the red. This would be the big level. And this, you have room to come down here, keep this 3-day money flow in the green, and then look for the higher low there. So that is what I would be looking at on hype. Right now, I mean, there's really nothing to do unless you wanted to, like, aggressively short that thing. Not financial advice. I mean, I'm not going to short it here. I'd rather, for me personally, if I were going to take a trade here, I would wait for a push into the value area high. I'd rather look for my short up there. If it goes down without me, I would just wait for the long. So there you go. Key levels on hype. But overall, long term, I would say this looks pretty decent for an overall continuation up, even if you get the bigger pullback. Let's see. BTC bouncing nice. Oh. Let's see here. Let me just move this profile up. And again, this is super low time frame, guys. This is like just trying to find something to talk about. But there you go, right? Break above, potential, retest as support. Once you lose that, again, I'd be looking for the POC. But if you can hold it, maybe we can get that 15-minute money flow to continue up. But just chopping around. I mean, overall medium time frame, really the level to break is the daily. Just trying to find something to talk about here. Just narrate the price action live. Because I think that is like the most educational way to do it, right? Like looking at the price action, analyzing it live, being like, all right, here we are. It's actually happening. This is what I'm looking for. And look at that. Nice little bounce off the daily MPOC. So let me just pull this range back up. Whoops. Take off the anchored VWAP. What just happened? Dude, am I having a stroke right now? Where did that volume profile go? Hang on a second. All right, there we go. Deleted him. All right, so we'll see. I have to reset this alert now. All right. See, if that 80-minute red dot prints, probabilities will be higher that you come back down. It's not quite there yet, but you do have your 5-minute money flow trending out. Get that 80-minute red dot. Would have to look. All right, 5-minute money flow crosses over. I'll set an alert on this as well. Get that 5-minute money flow crossover into the red. That would indicate that we'll see that 5-minute trend continue to the downside to that POC. So we'll see if we can get that. If not, we'll look for that daily. Shout out to JP. Says, Frankie, question. If you have price coming to the value area low or value area high of your volume profile, but you have a daily MPOC SFP below the area, what governs for a spot to look for a trade? So more often than not, I am viewing the support and resistance levels, even within a volume profile, as a zone. So, for example, let me try to find a good place. Just grab this. Actually, keep that there. Like typically, right, for the volume profiles, I prefer, sure, you can get the bounces directly off the value area lows. We actually took this scalp in the Discord into the POC. But typically for like a beautiful volume profile setup, I'll actually just draw this out, right, just to make it nice and simple. You have your value area high, your POC, your value area low. And you could watch the volume profile tutorials in the beginner series to understand this a bit further. But when you look at this, right, let's say price comes back down, POC, lose the POC, value area low, there's your high probability rotation. I like to look for the longs basically off the idea of a failed auction, right? The market has agreed, buyers and sellers agree that this is cheap, this is expensive. This is cheap, this is expensive. So anytime you deviate above the expensive area, right, technically above would be expensive. Once you get up here, I'm saying price is expensive. I like to deviate above the volume profile find the confirmations, and then once I get that rotation, I'm already in the trade with my stop loss above the high. And then all I have to do is sit here and wait for the value area high to get lost. Once I'm back in here, I have a high probability expectation that this is going to play out to at least the POC, if not high probability move down to the value area low. So that's kind of how I do it. So, at the end of the day, how do I know where that trade is to be taken? Well, I have confirmations that I'm looking for. So if I have a wick up here that I'm looking to get an SFP on, let's say I'm looking for an SFP, right? I would be saying, hey, I want to see if I can deviate above here, sweep that liquidity. Once I get that SFP, there's my bearish confirmation above the high. That's my trigger to take the trade. And then the plan for that trade is to hopefully come down, get accepted into the profile, and get the rotation to the low. And of course, when you have money flow on your side, let's say money flow was in the green about to cross into the red, you have a little bit of extra confluence and confidence that that will end up playing out. So in this case, it's like sometimes you might be looking to take that trade right at the value area low, but a lot of times I'll have that real key level I want to see tapped for the confirmation will be above the value area high or below the value area low if you were looking for a long position, right? So I guess your question is probably like, should I look for the long run on the value area low? And the simple answer to that is it changes, right? It depends on the setup. Sometimes I'm looking for the SFP. I want to see that SFP, in which case I don't really care if I get a little bounce on the value area low because my anticipation is to eventually get the SFP for the actual setup. So it depends on each different trade. Every trade's going to be different. You're going to be looking for different confirmations. There's going to be different confluences, etc. But for the most part, like the perfect kind of idea for me is to wait for the deviation above expensive price. If it's expensive, why not sell it here and wait for it to go back down into the fair value, which is the volume profile. So there you go. Quick little volume profile explainer there. Shout out to Jake from Reddit. Said, yo, Frankie, let me hold a couple of dollars. Shout out to Jake from Reddit. Not to be confused with his cousin, Jake from State Farm. Or Chris from Allstate. Shout out to JP. Said, thanks, Frankie. I took a massive loss on XRP because I took a trade on the value area low with divergence confirmation. But below there was an SFP, which I took the trade and broke even. So I really appreciate it, bro. Shout out to JP. Great work. Great work. But I will say the massive loss, right? If you manage your trade, right? If you manage the risk correctly, there should be no, unless you accepted that, I will take hey, I'm going to take a massive loss if I lose this trade. If you're okay with that, that's fine. But if you manage the risk, for example, price comes down. Let's say you get the bullish divergence here. You don't know that there's an SFP level down there. You take the trade. Your stop loss, right? You should know, hopefully you did, you should know the amount of money you're going to lose on that trade, right? So if you have, hopefully you didn't get liquidated. If you got liquidated, you got to use a stop loss. You got to manage that risk. So at that point, right, your depending on the market structure, etc., your stop loss should be at the technical invalidation, very likely below the previous low. And then if you get stopped out there, you should know, hey, I'm only going to lose X% of my account, which you should be totally fine with, right? You could lose 2, 3, 4 trades in a row. You're not going to get totally wrecked. The fact that you took a big loss just makes me a little bit like, that shouldn't be the case, but you're able to make it back, which is good. But what that should have been, the better way that should have played out was, I took a small loss. Now I'm seeing an SFP. I'll take another shot here, risking a small amount, right? So you take a small loss, no big deal. Then you take the SFP with a small risk, and then you actually make money, right? Instead of having to eat up that giant loss. So hopefully that helps you out, but I'm glad you were able to make your money back, bro. Yeah, shout out to Basu. I don't know how to say that name. But shout out to you. Says, many people don't understand your strategy. They're thinking that if price hits the value area high, they have to take a trade. Yeah, well, shout out to, I forgot who said it. But they said they did see a bullish divergence, so at least they're waiting for confirmation. But yeah, there's times where price hits a value area high. I'm just not interested in the trade because there's no confirmation. There's going to be times where you push into a value area high and there's no real setup. That's where the confirmations come in. Absolutely. Was totally poor management. I'm working on that right now. Shout out to JP, bro. You're ahead of 99% of people, bro. If you know that and you're like, hey, I managed that wrong, you kind of got you took it on the chin. You're like, ooh, that hurt. I'm not going to let that happen again. You're ahead of 90% of people. Most people would have gotten wrecked there and been like, I need a new strategy. and they're never going to find their way. So yeah, I'll just tighten up that risk management a little bit, and you could go from a break-even trader to a profitable trader very quickly. Shout out to Chris, said Frankie's Commie's got the dogs out. I got 3 dogs out. I got my dogs out and my actual dog out. Well, she's technically in the cage. But let's see here. Let's go down lower time frame. Look at that. Daily MPOC holding as support. 15-minute money flow continuing up. Let me just... God, I deleted the volume profile again. But I'll just pull up that daily MPOC real quick. Get that. Potential hold of support. Still the opportunity to push into the daily. Let me re-pull that profile. I don't know why I keep deleting it. There you go. Little retest there. At 10-minute money flow coming out. So we'll see. If we could push up above this high, flip the daily, could open the door into the 74-167 level. Again, original thought process, line in the sand to here, line in the sand to here. Again, not actively trading this right now, just trying to narrate the price action for you and what I look for. Hopefully educating along the way. Shout out to Tony Rosas. What is going on, brother? Welcome in. Good to see you. Shout out to JP. He's right. There's the profile. Wait, what the heck? Yo, I'm tripping. Maybe I am having a stroke here. Yo, it is there. I just redrew the profile for no reason. Yes, please. The magic line on the screen. Zach, we got the magic line drawn for you, bro. Hopefully it plays out. We're rooting for Zach. But yeah, like I said, I'm not actively trading based off this idea. I know Zach isn't either. He was already in his trade. My situation here personally is I am still holding my swing long, which is compounded from 66K. And to be honest, I might aggressively take profits on that and de-risk on the way up. Because again, the overall thought process here is just don't know if this is the best level to be looking for the low to come in. I do expect this eventually to roll over again down here, medium time frame. I don't want people getting like freaked out here, like, oh my God, if we break this, we're going to 0. This is very low time frame. I mean, from the POC to the daily MPOC to the POC, it's a 0.39% move, right? Just trying to teach the price action here. Shout out to Cryptic Crypto. Says, Frankie, do you have a routine when you get on the charts? What's the first thing you do or look for when you first get on the chart? Shout out to Cryptic Crypto. Yes, I do have a routine, and I actually have a video talking about my daily trading routine. I think it's in the beginner series if you go check it out. But essentially, I'll say like a Monday routine because I'm not every day coming on the chart and marking off weekly levels because obviously it takes a week to print those weekly levels. Look at that. I just deleted that volume profile again. JP's like, man, you deleted it again, bro. But yeah, for the most part, like I'll just say like on a Monday, right, I sit down on the chart. I start off on the monthly. Right, well, let's just assume a new month has started. I mark off a new monthly, which will only happen when you print a new monthly candle. So I mark off the monthly horizontals. I go to the weekly. I mark off the new weekly horizontals. If you don't know how to do that, it's all in the beginner series. I show you exactly how I do it. Then I go down to the daily. I mark off all the new daily levels. And then I start to pull my volume profiles. If I have a range starting, I start to pull my major Fibonacci retracements. And I do top-down analysis, right? I mark off my high time frame key levels. And then I move down to the daily. And then after that, I'll zoom into like the, say, 1 hour. And I go into like the local price action to get ready for like the day. So you can check that video out in the beginner series. Shout out to Yusuf says, hey, Frankie, what would you say the stronger support resistance level is, a daily horizontal or a daily MPOC? I tend to like the daily MPOCs for a stronger level, but it really depends. Sometimes if I just have a daily and I'm looking for a small day trade or scalp, that will be enough for me to take a trade, but typically an MPOC is going to be a stronger level in my opinion. What's your opinion on that spider line we're on right now? Let's pull up the spider lines. I actually made a pact to myself that we'll start looking at the spider lines a little more often. We used to look at these all the time. So let's see here. I don't have all the spider lines marked off on this chart. If you don't know what spider lines are, they're just long-term trend lines. They do tend to be very well respected. Shout out to CryptoFace. I did not invent these. I have put my own little flavor on them, though. I look at regular spider lines and Heikin-Ashi spider lines. And you can also look at these on log and non-log. So when I look at this, I would say, yeah, I don't have a spider line that we're tapped on right now. But overall, obviously you had this big level here in the 80K zone. Fail that, big move down. Taking a look at it on a non-log. What's this come in at? 74. And then again, right, like these are the same resistance levels we went over. So just to add a little bit more confluence on those resistance levels we took a look at, right? And we pull up like a lower time frame here. The golden pocket retracements, confluent with your spider lines. Golden pocket's confluent with the golden pocket 786, confluent with the spider line pocket. Can't get above there. First opportunity for a lower high. But if you can get above that, right, the next big level is going to be sitting up here, golden pocket 786, perfectly in line with this spider line pocket at the 786 at about 76, 784. So yeah, I mean, those levels are pretty confluent with the two resistance levels we looked at through the volume profile perspective, right? Value area low, golden pocket 786. You can incorporate the spider lines or the spider line pocket in there. Once you get above here, break above it, next big level, spider lines right in line with that POC, and golden pocket not confluent with the spider lines, but of course you do have a little backup on the end of that zone. So yeah, pretty interesting there. Actually do have nice confluence. And then from like a high time frame perspective, let's just zoom out here, pull up like the daily. You guys can see, right? We talk about that 74K level being a huge, huge, huge level. Like, look at these spider lines. If we can like hold these, of course, I would pretty much be expecting lower highs and lower lows. But once we end up not being able to get above these spider lines, where's the next major spider line? Sits down pretty close to that $68,000 POC. There's no spider lines underneath us here. Pretty interesting. Like, and we even talked about, when we get this pullback, it's going to be difficult for the longs, right? And again, I just held my swing long here, compounded, still in profit here because my original entry was 66K. But this is like a major, 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 major level. We end up losing this. Yikes. Looking for the bigger drop down through the major profile. POC, right? That spider line. There's no spider lines in here either. And when we talked about it being difficult for the longs down here because we have so much support all close to each other. The daily MPOCs, the dailies, the weeklies, they're all very spread out, right? There was like a level here, level here, level here, level here. It's very hard. Again, are you going to bounce off this level? Are you going to bounce off this level? Are you going to bounce off this level? That's why I chose to just add to my compound my long position from lower, just adding to it in a general zone. And you can see that even here on the spider lines. It's like you have all these support levels. And when they're spread out like that, it's very difficult to find the one level with all the confluence because like you have one here, one here, one here. But at the end of the day, it's a big zone. Once you lose the zone, nothing underneath you. Just based off the volume profile, this would be the expected path for price. When you look at just the spider lines, it would pretty much be the same thing. Very interesting. I have a tutorial video to show you guys how to draw these, by the way. Shout out to JP, says, that's funny. I have one literally at 73.3, and it's holding pretty well. Shout out to JP. Like I said, I don't have every spider line marked off on this chart, so I wouldn't say your level's incorrect or anything. I just might not have that one marked out. Yeah, looking at those spider lines makes it feel like we're in a free fall. Yeah, assuming that this doesn't hold up. Right? And like one of the big things that I would look at if we're going to get some kind of bigger retracement here, I said I was going to talk about that exact confirmation, which I kind of didn't. It would be daily SFP, right? We looked at the liquidation heat maps, which I also said I was going to look at with you guys. We have all that liquidity sitting down here, right? And this is part of the reason why I felt suspicious. Like, hey, guys, I'm expecting that bigger drop down lower. We have all that liquidity down below. And we've now come and taken out that liquidity. And to be fair, we do still have some liquidity, which magically brings you down to that 71.6 level, which hilariously is right down her. So you do still have some of that liquidity sitting down below, but that first major pocket of liquidity, you could look for a high time frame SFP. And again, I don't like to trade high time frame SFPs. I'm not saying you can't, right? Technically, you would wait for the daily candle to confirm. Maybe you get an entry around there. Your stop loss would go just below that daily wick. And then you can look for, again, if I were anticipating a massive move up for new highs, I'd be more inclined to take a swing trade like that. But I would just be using this signal as if you get that daily SFP, maybe that can give you a little bit more of a retracement into those bigger resistance levels. So we'll see if we can confirm that daily SFP. We still have 3.5 hours left to see that for this candle to confirm. Right? If we wind up getting a dump and close the candle down here, well, you have no SFP. If you get it, could give you a little bit more of a retracement up. In which case, I will probably start to de-risk my long a little bit unless we see something crazy change. And then, if it winds up playing out, great. I still have a little bit of a bigger position on my long. But again, overall thought process here is probably going to be biggest level of resistance from a very simple outlook without bringing up all the profiles, without bringing out all the local levels. I'd be very careful around this zone if we can get that push up. So daily SFP confirms. Maybe we can get that bigger retracement. I would be very careful here for a potential lower high and lower low. If it fakes out, beautiful. My long is partially compounded. Let's see. Heikinashi candles? No. Frankie candles? Yes. Shout out to Genesis. But yeah, guys, I don't want to overcomplicate things here. At about the 2-hour mark here on the live stream, I'll leave you with this very simple outlook. We have lost our value area high, anchored VWAP. Shout out to anybody who watched the market update yesterday. Plays out perfectly. Not to brag, but just to show. Change your sentiment based off money flow. We'll keep you on the right side of the trades. At this point, if we can get that daily SFP, maybe we can get a bigger retracement. Biggest level of resistance to look at. Can we reject earlier? Sure. I covered those local levels in the beginning of the stream. But I would say the highest I'm willing to look right now, if we get that daily SFP, would be sitting here between about 75.7 and 76.8. Once we get up there, money flow is continuing to the downside. So you do have to be careful of lower highs and lower lows. If that does end up being the case, whether we get it sooner or later, 71,500 to 70,600 is the next big magnetic level. For me personally, it's not really a ton of really, really good, as I mentioned in the market update yesterday, not a ton of really good opportunities here on Bitcoin in the current price action, right? We had the setups in the Discord, obviously the one from up here. Other than that, not really a ton of really new opportunities. Very choppy. Doesn't mean you can't make money if you're positioned well like we are. But yeah, I just think that, could we get the bounce here? Sure. Do I think it's the best setup ever on the strongest key level? Not really. If we wind up coming back down, I'll stop out of my long and profit. And of course, the short from the top will continue to pay out, which is absolutely beautiful, right? Kind of a nice, cushy position to be in. I'll either wake up. If I had to guess, I'll wake up and the long will be stopped out. If not, I'll wake up with a shocker of a big pump. And long will continue to pay out. Shout out to James said, didn't you use the 5-hour at some point, Frankie? Shout out to James. I use the 5-hour from time to time. It's not a major market cipher B1/16th time frame that I look at or anything like that. But of course, I do have the 5-hour here. Usually when I'm using the 5-hour, it's just to kind of front run what's going to happen on these higher time frames. But I don't really use it for anything like super big, right? Like the 4-hour is a major level. When I see a 4-hour green dot, I'm almost every single time going right down to the 15-minute, seeing if my money flow is crossing over into the green. If it is, I can look for the local money flow, local trend to continue to the upside. So major outlook here, guys. Losing the macro value area high, the $74,000 level, and we've tapped into the local daily MPOC, which is literally the line in the sand for the bigger drop down. If we don't hold here, not looking very good for Bitcoin. You get the retracement, potential value area high retest. If we can't get above that level, bearish sentiment remains the same. Money flow continues out on the higher time frames. I'll look for lower highs and lower lows. And once we break above here, we can say, hey, this looks a lot better. Let the long continue to play out to some upper targets, which I'll cover at the time. But right now, I think the simplest way to look at this is we're now below that value area high. This is bearish until we can break it back above that level. You got the golden pocket 786 confluence. You got the $66,000 anchored VWAP. This is the biggest level of resistance to get on your chart. If you want the hyper-local level, scrub back to the beginning of the stream. But for now, this is kind of my overall thought process. Not that I expect it to play out perfectly, but this is my money flow coming out. I can't really say that this is the strongest level to just look for massive new bounces. Again, like I said on the last live stream, I hate to say that. But hey, if you can understand where price is going to go, the Mafia makes money whether price goes up or down. So it's not that, I always root for price to go up, but if it goes down, let's get paid out on those short positions down to the 71.5 level. So let me know in the chat on your way out, you think 71.5 is coming in, or do you think the low is in and we're going to bust through that value area high in a super shocking manner? The money flow is going to fake out and we're launching up into 86 to 90K. Let me know what you guys think, but thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate every single one of you guys for hanging out with us here on the Frankie Candles live stream. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those market updates, man. They bangers. And we'll let Lucy outro the live stream here. Say thanks for watching, Mafia. I love you all. That's all I got. Hasta pasta. Lucy Candles out. Woof woof.
Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, we winning by a landslide. Never see me coming on my landmine. Yeah, I ain't taking orders in command, like, yeah, you about to see me on demand, like, you know, on demand. If you ain't know, you about to understand. Yeah, I got the team by my side, right hand. Yeah, take it to a string, you ain't seen it like that. Yeah, and it's the dream, and we coming for the bag. Yeah, and we ain't never going back now. Future expedited, now we on the fast track now. They won't lend a hand, now they see us on the map now. It's time to act out. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road, here we go, here we go. Here we go, at the top of the class on a roll, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know. Maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, ayy, on the road, here we go, yeah, at the top of the class on a roll, ayy, and it's time to run it up, yeah, you know, yeah, maxed out, put the pedal to the floor, yeah, on the road.